Hello everyone, welcome back to World Cricket Chat. We sort of disappeared in between a bit. Well, disappeared sort of for reviews and previews and predictions. My predictions have disappeared as well.
Sri Lanka series after all.
It was.
We knew who was going to win.
Yes, the thing was it was a Sri Lanka series and we thought we'd give ourselves a break, but in between we did get a chance to speak to Sneha Pradhan, who is India's former women cricketer, and it was wonderful to speak to her. So if you guys haven't seen that video, we're going to put that link there. Did you enjoy that conversation with her?
It was one of my favorite interviews, a different perspective. I must admit I have not had a lot of talk with a lot of women's cricketers. I have interviewed a few men's cricketers because that's what we have covered all these years, but it was something special for me.
It definitely was. And another special execution has been by Team India.
Oh, yes.
I mean, an away team to win everything, like clean sweep. With the
9 games in a row.
Right.
3 test matches, 5 one-days and the 1 off T20. And as you said, the first team ever to win 9 matches, lose nothing in an away series. So hats off to the Indian team, and that's I know they were playing against a team like Sri Lanka, which has been struggling. They did not make it to the semi-final of the Champions Trophy. They lost to Bangladesh at home in a test match. So it's not been great going for them. They have lost a lot of cricketers, but still to not win a single international, in fact, was a big surprise. And India executed their plans very well, I think.
Yes, and I was frankly disappointed considering Sri Lanka did beat India in one of those Champions Trophy matches. And actually I did feel a little surprised.
That was, in fact, I would put it in another way. I thought that loss in the Champions Trophy was a surprise. India had no business to lose the game after scoring all those many runs, but a flat pitch and India's bowling at that stage, there were issues. I think we saw those issues in the final of the Champions Trophy as well. In the absence of a wrist spinner, I think India did have problems in that tournament, and they've had problems before as well, which was not the case during the Sri Lanka series. So that was something that India probably took away from the Champions Trophy defeat in the final.
So, do you think that after playing an opponent like Sri Lanka, such a clean sweep in all 3 formats, and then now to come back home to play against Australia, do they take their win with a pinch of salt?
They do. I think I tweeted this. It was probably a little rude on my part to say this, but on the one hand, it looked like they were playing a club side, and now it will be back to international cricket for India, because Australia, despite their, I wouldn't call them their issues, but they did not have a great past 12 months or so. They have had a revamp in the test team. The one-day team did not do well in the Champions Trophy, but we'll get to that later. Playing Australia will be a different proposition. Even playing Australia in India will be a different proposition. It's not as if India has had a great upper hand over Australia in India in ODI cricket. So I think it's going to be a close default series.
As long as there are no Faulkner, Ishant Sharma type nightmares again.
Hopefully there's no Ishant Sharma in the squad as well. I think India has a good lineup of bowlers that does not have Ishant Sharma in the white ball format, and till that happens, I think India is safe.
Yes, safe for some more nightmares there. So every time I see a Mohali ground, I just remember that onslaught at the end there from Faulkner. But James Faulkner is in the team, so we got to watch out.
And he has a lot to prove, because Australia has not been picking him. He's just made a comeback, and I think he will remember. And he said that India, playing in the IPL, playing in the World T20 last year, has given players like Faulkner and the rest of the team enough confidence to play in a country like India.
Sounds good. We'll see what happens with Faulkner during this series, but we will talk about Australia in a lot more detail a little further on there. Sunil, if we look at India's squad, they've announced their team for the first three ODIs there, and India have just done really well, like we were saying in Sri Lanka. What sort of how do you rate this squad? I know there's no Ashwin and Jadeja there, so
it's more or less the same squad that played in Sri Lanka. I think two fast bowlers. So India is so to say main bowlers in the fast bowling department. Mohammad Shami and Umesh Yadav were rested in Sri Lanka. They are back. Ashwin and Jadeja, who did not play in that series, have not been picked again. According to the selectors, they've been rested. But
it's been a long rest.
It's been a long rest. Ashwin is playing county cricket. Jadeja has been out, and I'm not surprised actually, because whatever the selectors may say, Jadeja's record in recent times in white ball cricket has not really yielded too many wickets. In the Champions Trophy as well, he went for a few runs, and every time he has bowled with that white ball, it's not been great going. Ashwin is somewhat similar in that sense, and I think the selectors probably made a mistake by not fielding a wrist spinner for the Champions Trophy, which is what we had said earlier as well. They are trying to resurrect it for the 2019 World Cup, where there will be a need for such kind of a bowler, because that World Cup is going to be played in England, where the pitches might not help spinners otherwise. We saw in the Champions Trophy they were batting friendly surfaces, so a wrist spinner is a must, and I think that's the reason why Chahal and Kuldeep Yadav have both been picked. I suppose there will be place for one of them for the 2019 World Cup. There could be a direct competition between the two of them, or you never know, if both of them keep picking up wickets the way they've been doing, one of Jadeja and Ashwin might get dropped from that squad, but that's probably the reason why both of them are there in this team. Plus we know that Australia have struggled with spin, so when you're talking about someone like Kuldeep Yadav who bagged those 4 wickets in their final test match, and Chahal has been doing well as well, so I think that the squad is more or less on the lines of what I thought it would be for India.
So that's with the bowlers, but KL Rahul has struggled quite a bit in Sri Lanka. India did win, but he has struggled. So what does his sort of future look like in the squad? He is there.
There's KL Rahul, there's Manish Pandey, there is Kedar Jadhav, the 3 of them forming the Indian middle order. 2 players are not in the squad. We don't know what their future lies. It's Yuvraj Singh, who had helped India win the 2011 World Cup. Suresh Raina is not in the squad. And there are rookie players like Rishabh Pant who are there and thereabouts, who were in the squad, did not get a chance to play. So there are all these players who are fighting for those places in the middle order. Kedar Jadhav did very well in the England series. Has not got a lot of opportunities, but then you have to take the opportunities that you get, and that's what he did not do in Sri Lanka, and even in the Champions Trophy, the couple of times that he went to bat. Coming back to your question on KL Rahul, I think he did not play Akila Dhananjaya too well. He could not read the googly, and that was KL Rahul's problem. I would like to see how he goes up against Australia, because Australia does have an Adam Zampa, but I'm not very sure if Adam Zampa has that kind of variety that Dhananjaya did have. And KL Rahul has otherwise shown that he is a good batsman in one-day cricket. If he can't bat at number 4, then I don't think there is any other spot vacant for him. So first things first, whether he gets that opportunity in the playing 11, because there is Manish Pandey who seemed to have grabbed the opportunity that he got in the 2 one-dayers in Sri Lanka. There is Kedar Jadhav who can give that extra option of bowling. So you never know, KL Rahul might not get that immediate opportunity to play in the team. But when he does against Australia, I think this could be one of those last chances, if I could call it. And with that kind of a backup that India has, he better perform.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see on the 17th, which is the first ODI. So we'll see who is picked for number 4 then.
Yep.
We've just spoken about India's squad. Now let's look at Australia. They haven't really been doing very well in their recent ODI history. So how do they put a full strength team together?
Yep, in recent times, Australia, they were going through that contractual issue with the cricket board. In the Champions Trophy, did not make it to the semi-finals, which is surprising, although they were...
It's the rain.
It's the rain.
It's the English conspired against the Aussies, and it was the rain.
You can always say that as an Aussie, and you can say that as an English fan as well when you lose to Australia. So they actually did not manage to make it to the semi-finals. Before that, they beat New Zealand and Australia. They beat Pakistan 4-1. But there were two other series that went against them. There was one 5-0 drubbing at the hands of South Africa last year. And then they went to New Zealand and lost the Chapel Hadley series to New Zealand. So the results haven't been that great. They have lost 3 of their previous 5 series, and the 2 series that they have won came at home. So that's something that Australia would want to change. And they have a decent record in India. We've spoken about that earlier as well. It's just that the sense that I get looking at their team is it's not a very settled team in terms of their number 4, 5 and 6. Stephen Smith, David Warner, Aaron Finch are more or less there and thereabouts. Lock-ins, as you would call him, in the team. Aaron Finch on his day can take on any kind of bowling. Warner and Smith, we know, are class apart. Smith might want to get a few more runs in this format of the game. He averages over 60 in Test match cricket, but in ODI cricket he would probably want to take it up to Kohli when it comes to his run scoring. It's the number 4, 5 and 6 which might be a little dicey. They played Moises Enrique in the Champions Trophy. He did not select him in this squad. There's Marcus Stoinis, Travis Head, Hilton Cartwright, all of them looking for that number 5, number 6 spot. Matthew Wade, he is the wicket keeper who will probably bat at 7, but then again, he has shown that his batting in these conditions has been a bit of a suspect, which again, we'll have to see what kind of surfaces will be on offer in India. And then there are the rest of the bowlers where Australia is missing Mitchell Starc. They are without Josh Hazlewood. So Pat Cummins takes on the onus of bowling. He's a good bowler. We've seen what he can do in the subcontinental conditions, but the support is missing. So that's where their squad stands at this stage, Shruti.
And your favorite Adam Zampa and the this spin there. I mean, are you planning on going for the Aussie squad that you've been spinning that ball all morning?
It's Shane Warne's birthday. But we're talking about Adam Zampa. He is a good leg spinner, but again, he's not played a lot of internationals. So he gets picked. He gets picked in the limited overs format. Does not play in Test matches. Nathan Lyon had a good time in Bangladesh. He played both those Test matches. Got 20 odd wickets. There was that series against India where he got a lot of wickets as well. So he's been doing well in that format of the game in subcontinent, but he's not been picked because I think the selectors think that he might not make it to the Australian squad for the 2019 World Cup. They want a wrist spinner as well. So Adam Zampa's around. Ashton Agar is in the squad, and he took 4 wickets in yesterday's match against the board presidents 11. So that is probably an attempt to bring in all-rounders to the team who can bowl and bat a bit. Bowlers who can bowl a bit, batsmen who can bowl a bit, bowlers who can bat a bit, batsmen who can bowl a bit. But in doing so, I'm just worried that Australia might be going into the match with a bowler or 2 short.
Sure.
And
that's why you're required.
That is why I'm required. I just need to get my PR.
Yeah, you do, and a change in the shirt color there as well. So that's interesting. So again, you also mentioned Faulkner earlier. So this will be an interesting squad.
It will be. As I said, Faulkner again adds to the all-round capabilities of the team. Ashton Agar will be doing that. Glenn Maxwell will be doing that. So that middle order is going to consist of that. It's just that when you look at out-and-out bowlers, you just have Cummins and probably to an extent Zampa. So those are the only 2. Will they play a second fast bowler in the form of Nathan Coulter-Nile? Needs to be seen. But for now, it looks like if the pitches are anywhere close to what we saw in the 2013 series, batting friendly, flat roads, then the Indian batsmen could well make merry there.
Now with both squads out of the way there, how are these surfaces going to be? What do you think, Suneer?
This is an interesting one because we've seen that India has this habit, the BCCI has this habit, or the curators have the habit, or the captain coerces the curators into doing so. But the pitches for ODI cricket are very different from the ones that are on display in Test match cricket. There was a series against South Africa that India lost 3-2. In that final match, there was a surface on which South Africa scored 434, if I'm not wrong. And Ravi Shastri, who was the coach even then, was pretty pissed at that. He was miffed at the way the batsmen were able to score those many runs. He wanted a surface which tested the batsmen in terms of spin bowling. The last time Australia were here in 2013, it was again very similar. You had 350 being chased down on a regular basis. But then when you look at the New Zealand series last year, which India won 3-2, there was that last match at I think Vishakhapatnam where Amit Mishra got all those wickets, and it was a sprint-friendly pitch. So you never know what kind of surfaces that might be on offer. Having known how Ravi Shastri operates, having known how Virat Kohli operates, I have full faith in them to try and take advantage of whatever they think is their strength and the opposition's weakness, which I think could well be a perceived weakness in Australia, not playing spin as well as they do pace bowling. So on a flat pitch, as we have seen day in day out in Australia win more matches than they lose, but on a not so flat surface where bowlers come into their own, it might be a little different. So I have my doubts that we'll see very similar kind of surfaces to what we saw in the 2013 series. Probably one pitch where runs may come in a plenty, 300, 320, 350 being scored, but I think more often than not you'll have a spin friendly, bowler friendly surface.
And that should be sort of to India's advantage, considering how you spoke earlier that Australia do seem a bowler short, and then it doesn't play to their strengths, and it helps India out because their bowling isn't as lethal, at least in the spin department, as it could be.
I would say that is one of the reasons why India would want to go for that kind of surface as well. Because again, when you look at the Australian batting lineup, I think it's strong. The top three can score runs on any kind of surface. So make no mistake, whatever the surface, Smith, Warner and Finch will probably still score runs. Finch is a little susceptible against spin, but when you talk about the new ball, when the ball is not turning too much, he will get that kind of start if he's fit, because he had that injury in the first in the warm-up game that Australia played, and he did not feature in that match. But when you look at the lower order, they are untested against low bowling. So that is where India might want to come back into the match if the starts have been quick, which is why those pitches again could be a little bowling friendly, could be a little spin friendly.
One of the biggest features of the test series between India and Australia was the spirit of the game, which sort of didn't really exist. It didn't look like the gentleman's game.
Spirit of the game was like a ghost of the game, invisible. There was no spirit of the game.
Truly it was, and the gentlemen were not out there on the field being gentlemanlike at all.
I don't think it is a gentleman's game anyway. Given the ICC is getting a new rule into the picture where cards are going to be brandished in case of misdemeanors on the field. I don't think it's ceased to remain a gentleman's game anymore, Shruti.
I guess then we shouldn't really expect any sort of nice behavior on the field. Then again,
you can always hope for that. The series that you were referring to, the one between India and Australia in the test matches earlier, was probably one of the ugliest that I have seen in the last decade. We've heard stories about how things could get ugly between when Australia were at their best, when West Indies were at their best in the 80s. But this was the ugliest that I've seen between two countries, between two nations who refused to let go. One issue led to another, and it was a dominoes effect probably, and there was no stopping after that. And I was very surprised that players got away with a lot of things that they did on and off the field. We've seen in recent times, a couple of players have been banned. They've had misdemeanors as I wouldn't call it not as lethal a misdemeanor as what was happening in the test series. A bowler swearing at a batsman is as common as it can get in this day and age, and he got banned for that. And there's a Jason Holder incident where he probably swore at his own fielder because the fielder did not do too well, and he got banned for that. So it's kind of surprising that all those incidents led to bans or loss of demerit points, and nothing happened in that series. And the thing is, it requires just one trigger for the whole series to go kaput after that. And in the test series, there was that incident where Steven Smith looked at the dressing room to get the DRS signal. Not that the things were too great even before that, but I think that was the trigger point for things to even go worse after that. So when Steven Smith talks about the spirit of the game and the hope that the game and the series is played within the spirit of the game, I can only hope that that's the case, but I have my doubts.
I have my doubts too. I don't really believe that that is something that's going to be happening, since we both know that both teams are pretty fiery,
and they are led by fiery characters. Virat Kohli is that kind of a firebrand who will not take a backward step, and he had that comment of his that he thought that there were a lot of friends of his in the Australian dressing room, and no longer, according to him. Mitchell Starc actually tweeted something to him, which he was supposed to DM him, and the tweet came out about whether he still is a friend or no for Kohli. It's an IPL connection from Royal Challengers Bangalore, but he's not around, so it's probably that kind of rivalry wouldn't be there between Starc and Kohli. But yeah, I mean, given the two characters, given that there's always David Warner who can add fuel to fire, and the Indian team as well. I mean, I'm not taking sides here. I think both sides, as you said, are equally fiery, so to say. It's going to take that just one trigger and things could go haywire from there.
Now we're almost at the end of this video, but we can't let you go without you telling us who you think, how the series is going to end, at least the ODI series, how that's going to be. 5 ODIs, what do you think is going to happen?
India start favourites for more reasons than one. The most important reason is they are playing like a champion side. They did not win the Champions Trophy final, but they got to the final, which by itself is a huge thing. I mean, they lost to Pakistan, which kind of overshadowed the fact that they had got to the final. They won the series in West Indies. They shouldn't have lost the match that they lost, but 3-1 is a decent result. They beat Sri Lanka 5-0 in the ODI series, so they have been doing well. Beat England at home as well, beat New Zealand at home. So they have had series results which are going their way. That's one reason, and the other one being that the Indian team looks more settled than the Australian side, and we've discussed how the Australian batting lineup number 4 onwards, and their bowling lineup has been inexperienced, is inexperienced for this series. So unless Steven Smith and David Warner can together play mind-boggling, series-turning innings in at least 2 or 3 matches out of the 5, I see that India should win this series 3-2 or even 4-1, Shruti.
4-1? Do you know what that will mean?
It will mean that India
become the number 1 ODI side.
Yes.
So I'd love to support that you on that one.
But I would stick to a 3-2 result in favor of India.
Strangely, so would I, if I put my sort of existence somewhere cricketing brain on, and I'm not sticking with my team.
Not taking out cards for this one?
I will. Before every match, there will be some information out there telling everyone who I think is going to win. But I think logically 3-2. And I guess the 3-2 end will tell us that it probably was a good series rather than it being very one-sided. I'm so tired of seeing one-sided matches. Please, players, teams, play some good cricket and make this one a competitive series.
And for you who's watching, please subscribe to this channel, because we will be coming up with a lot more videos, not only previewing series or previewing matches, but interviews with cricketers, women's cricketers, men's cricketers, and cricketers all around the world, not only the test playing nations. So you know where the place is to be.
Yes, so please do subscribe and do stick around for more videos on this particular series and the matches ahead. And Suneer and I are genuinely back. We're not going to be disappearing so soon. So have a good day and enjoy the first one day there. Bye.